When most of us get involved in health, we think about the foods we eat, we think about the herbs or supplements we might take, but we don't think about some of the other products that come in contact with our bodies that may not be absorbed by eating them, but might be absorbed through the skin or inhaling them. And these include the soaps and the cleaners and the cosmetics and personal care products that we use. And with us today to talk about this problem of the toxicity in some of these products and how we can deal with this is Kim McOwen from Florida. Glad to have you on our show, Kim. So you've done quite a bit of work in working with people with this kind of products. What kinds of products can cause health problems in the line of personal care and cleaning products?
Just about anything that most people have in their homes, from their laundry rooms to their kitchen sinks to their bathroom counters and their makeup drawers, are all things that are just full of toxins. Most of them are petroleum-based.
And these are absorbed through the skin or whatever. What kinds of health problems do these products cause?
I think they cause a general immune stress, because you're having to breathe them or pass them through the skin. So the thymus is having to respond to them. And then the liver comes under severe stress because they're poisons. They're substances that the body is not capable of breaking down. And that storage process and that effort to try to break them down puts the liver under tremendous stress.
You mentioned to me earlier you first noticed this with allergy patients. What did you notice when you started working with this?
When we'd start working with supplements, usually I would get some immediate response, but sometimes it just wasn't as good as I thought it should be. And I had a woman come in, and I assume everybody has a basic level of understanding that I have about some of these things, and didn't talk about it a lot at that point. And a woman that was just not getting the response that I thought she should be getting from her supplements came in and said, "I've got to hurry up and get what I'm doing quick because I've got to run home. The exterminator's coming." And this light went on in my head, and I thought, my goodness, it just never occurred to me that someone with severe allergies would be having their home sprayed. But we started looking a little bit beyond that into the other things that they were using. And so now I have my clients come in when I do consultations and not only bring their supplements that they're using, but I ask them to bring anything that they're using on a regular basis. And with the muscle testing, it's amazing to see what will happen to a stomach, for example, that may not have severe stress when you just test it on its own, and yet you can put one of the commercial dishwashing detergents into their hand and they'll bomb on the stomach area.
You mean it actually will weaken the stomach in muscle testing?
Significantly. And if you think it through, it makes sense. All of the commercial dishwasher powders have chlorine in them.
Oh, really?
And so you've got your chlorine substance and you're baking that onto your plate. Then when you put your hot food onto that plate, it's going to release that chlorine gas. That's going to get into the stomach. That's going to affect the stomach acid level and prevent the digestion from being as good as it should be.
Well, what percentage of the products do they bring in test week on them?
Oh, about 100. And what's really sad is that a lot of the products from the health food stores will also not test really well, because unfortunately in the health food stores you have companies that come in and create a great product and then are bought out by another company. We have health food store brands that we've known for years and years that are now owned by Procter & Gamble.
Really?
And are owned by some of these other companies. And so they start adding fluoride to the toothpaste and a little bit of aluminum salt or a chlorinated bactericide like triclosan into the deodorants. And so we've been buying these same things for years and years and years. And suddenly they're not the same anymore because of these commercial product extenders and commercial agents that are added to make them more appealing to the mass market.
You mentioned to me earlier something about feminine hygiene products that you were discovering. Could you tell us about that?
That was one of the biggest shocks of my life, because for years I've been so conscious about the detergents and all the things that I had in my home, because, you know, even just underneath your sink, not only are you breathing those things when they're open, but even when they're closed, you've got usually a petroleum compound bottle and a petroleum substance inside, which are going to combine and outgas and form odorless gases that you're going to be affected by all the time. But it had never occurred to me that there was a problem with these other things, and someone gave me a bunch of samples from a vendor one time, and there were some menstrual sponges in there. And when a friend asked if I'd ever used such a thing, I thought, gee, you know, I don't know, I can't imagine wanting to rinse these things out in tap water, you know, with the chlorine and all the rest. And then I went, oh my gosh, chlorine! All of the feminine hygiene products are white, and they're all synthetic fibers. And then when I started really reading the information on it, I was just appalled to find out that the FDA had given approval for heparin, which is a blood thinning drug, an anticoagulant, to be put into the batting mix, so that the theory was it would prevent us all from toxic shock. They're going to save us from that dread disease that happened that one weekend that suddenly we all heard about. So but it's also going to cause us to use more product. I mean, it's just for our welfare.
So in other words, that women who are using those products are being drugged with without their knowledge.
Without our knowledge.
With a blood thinner.
That's right. It's not on the labels. It's not anywhere. And so whether you're using internal or external protection, you have mucous membrane contact with a drug, with dioxins and bleaches, and with synthetic
fibers. They do use, of
fibers.
course, bleach to bleach
right.
the fibers, so you're getting the chlorine too,
That's
which
right.
has been shown to contribute to cancer and other things.
And then we're wondering why women have so many problems with cervical cancer and with all of these other infections.
Have you found that
become rampant.
like even the laundry soap people are using causes some problems?
That's one of the worst.
Really?
Absolutely. With muscle testing, that is probably the most toxic thing that most people are using. And if you think about our lives, you know, we're very conscious of smelling nice and doing all these other things. What really struck me about the laundry detergent was that I hadn't used, you know, the fabric softening sheets for years and years, and I had started using a commercial or a non-commercial detergent, a liquid laundry detergent, and so forth. And we went on vacation with my parents, and some of my kids' laundry ended up in my mother's suitcase. And she did me the favor of washing these clothes for me using her detergent and so forth. And so I went back to the house, and my kids even said, "Mom, these smell funny." It was just so strong. And all the time that I was using it, I didn't notice it. My senses had essentially been dulled, I think, by that. Many of those fragrance enhancers that are used actually cause the smell receptors to swell. Just like MSG will cause the taste buds to swell, so the smell is, or taste is more intense of food. The same thing happens when you're breathing these things. And so I washed those clothes 4 times with an organic detergent that's supposed to draw toxic matters in hot water, and we can still smell the residue of those detergents. And because they're petroleum compounds, they're very sticky and they cling to the fibers. And so those same compounds then are going to cling to your body and affect you the same way.
And you find that these primarily affect the thymus and the
liver. Very often, too, the lymphatic system, because they just stress the skin so much, everything closes up, so you don't get the cell respiration that you should be getting.
You mentioned something earlier about formaldehyde in sheets to me when we were talking before the show. What's that all about? I mean, formaldehyde? I mean, that's what they use to preserve dead bodies. I mean, what?
They use it to preserve everything. I was really surprised to find out, but formaldehyde is the single most commonly used substance in all household cleaners. In your soaps, your furniture polish, all of those things. It's extremely common. And in the sheets, it's an issue because one of the key symptoms of insomnia is one of the key symptoms of formaldehyde poisoning is insomnia. And so, you know, you wonder why sheets don't fade. Most of us can use the same sheets for 10 years, and we wash them every week, and we're drying them and all the rest, and yet we don't have the fading that you would have in a dress. You know, if you tried to wash a dress that often for that many years, and it's because they seal the fibers with the formaldehyde to give them that nice crisp finish and all of the rest. But we're ingesting formaldehyde in huge amounts from so many different areas.
They use it in the carpets and the furniture, don't they? And those
Most
things?
of the synthetic panelings and wallboards and those kinds of things have it.
Yeah, someone I knew has been having problems with headaches and recurrent yeast infections ever since she moved into a mobile home. And she got to thinking about it. She went camping, and her headaches cleared up, her yeast infection got better that she'd been battling. And so it made her really curious, and she remembered something about when she'd bought the motorhome, they'd had her sign this little document about formaldehyde, that formaldehyde was used all through the motorhome, and it listed all the side effects of the formaldehyde, and it included headaches, and it included the yeast, encouraging yeast infections, and quite a few of the other symptoms. So her actual home was causing her problems. And you also told me that earlier that can cause insomnia. So you put formaldehyde on the sheets and you don't get a better night's sleep.
That's right. You may not need a bunch of herbs or remedies or anything else. You may just need a new set of sheets to help you get a good night's sleep.
Well, what can we do about this? I mean, this is everywhere.
Well, I think the first thing is to educate yourself, to realize, first off, what the risks are. I was really surprised to find out that 84% of all household poisonings, all poisonings in children, come from common household cleaners. They don't come from getting into your grandmother's night case with her medicines in it, and they don't come from the rust removers. They come from things like dishwashing liquid. That's the single most common cause of children being poisoned, because most dishwashing liquids have ammonia in them. That's not on the label, but it's an extremely caustic substance, and they're in pretty little bottles, and they're bright colored, and that's not one you lock up. Even if you've got your little child locks and you're real conscientious about the serious cleaners, you don't think about putting away your dishwashing liquid or your, the antiseptic pump soaps that would be extremely poisonous if a child ingested them. And what child doesn't have their hands in their mouth? So everything is going to be ingested by children. So you first educate yourself to the risk and get a conviction that this is something that you need to take care of. And I have seen people's supplement needs drop dramatically when they cleaned out those things in their kitchens.
Wow.
Because they removed that external stress that was constantly weakening them further. So that's the first step. The next step is to find out what products are safe and to make those transitions.
Is muscle testing a good way to do that too?
I think muscle testing is an excellent way to do that. And
because obviously everything that we're talking about in terms of toxins is not on the label of these products.
that's right.
And we're allowing a lot of these chemicals to go in, and it's just considered standard part of the thing, so they don't consider it necessary to put them on the label.
Someone told me this afternoon that they had heard a news broadcast about all of the commercial laundry detergents using a known carcinogen. And the products are now being banned in other countries. They won't allow our soaps in because of this carcinogen. And our government's regulations were that we had to remove it when we determined that it was a serious carcinogen. It had to be removed from anything that was used for a topical or oral purpose. You know, now we may not wear our laundry detergent on our skin or rub it, but we do have that residue. When I realized how severe that was when I had not cleaned my bathroom, scrubbed it for some time, and I had someone who had a cleaning business and wanted to trade me for some products. And he came out and he said, "Kim, how long's it been since you really scrubbed your tub?" And I just sort of went, "Oh my gosh." A lot longer than I would care to admit. And he said, "Well, you use all that natural soap stuff, don't you?" "Yes, why?" And he said, "Because I clean people's homes every week and scrub their tubs with scouring powder." And he said, "There is no residue anywhere on yours."
Wow.
And I got to thinking about that. You know, porcelain is absolutely slick and porous, and your arms are not. You've got hair follicles and pores and lots of little ridges and valleys for those products to settle in. And if they can settle and cling to porcelain, you can imagine the amount of residue that we have.
They probably contribute to the skin not being able to breathe or eliminate properly, and that's an important part of our eliminative system to be able to have the skin operate. What can be done with the way of supplements to help a person's body to kind of detox from these kind of products? Build up the thymus, build up the liver, and so forth. I mean, obviously, you're going to get in contact with some of this stuff whether you want to or not.
I use primarily the blood cleaning herbs and the liver combinations that would be reducing the stress to the liver. I also find that I frequently need to work with a lot of lymphatic cleaners, because since the skin is not able to eliminate properly, that major function's gone, and the lymphatic system's going to be much more severely overworked.
Are we talking about things like burdock and Oregon grape and pau d'arco, chaparral, which the FDA won't let us sell, echinacea, mullein? Okay. And of course, blood purifying combinations.
Right. And then again, some of the digestants. Because coming back to the dishwashing thing, so many people have a compromised stomach already from the chlorinated water and the chlorinated swimming pools and all the other chlorine, and haven't thought about the chlorine they're ingesting.
What can be done about like the pesticides, because I'm sure that's another part of this, is the pesticide residues on the foods we buy.
Most of them are actually systemic at this point. So I think that I use...
In other words, you can't wash them off because
they're
putting the pesticides in that go right through the plant. And
right. So I think it's really important that we support organic farming, that we take the time and are willing to spend the extra money to support those farmers. It's been very frustrating in Florida. We had an excellent dairy that was raising milk with no the animals were getting no hormones, they were getting no antibiotics. The milk was not homogenized, and people were not willing to spend the extra 30 cents a gallon. And so the dairy went out of business. And we see that we really need to support the organic farmers and support the companies that produce these products, and then let them know when these commercial companies come in and buy out a name that we've known and trusted for years, we need to keep reading those labels and writing those companies and telling them that we won't support them, or find the companies that aren't using those products and support those companies, so that we get a market message there that we want these items and we're willing to pay to have them.
Do you have any stories you can share of some people you may have worked with these problems that help them with some specific health problems?
I think the chlorine story was one of the most dramatic. A woman who just had chronic digestive problems and was taking huge amount of bitter herbs, wormwoods, and those kinds of things as digestants. And once we eliminated her brand X dishwashing powder and changed her over to some of those natural things, she didn't need them anymore.
Really? That solved your problem?
That in itself did. I had a woman whose supplement needs, she'd had severe migraines, and had been on 4 different medications for migraines for years and years and years. And so we had worked her through with some supplements, and we had really tried to help her out in that way. And she was doing very well, but her requirements were not dropping significantly. When I have someone who comes in and we do a full program and they need some enormous number of supplements, I try to recheck those people every week or two to try to drop them down. And after the first couple of weeks, she dropped slightly, but had sort of reached a plateau and was still taking an enormous amount of blood purifying and blood building combinations, milk thistle combinations and burdock and bowel combinations. And when we got her a reverse osmosis purifier, so
that she could get the
she got pure water,
and the chemicals
and
out
she
of the water.
started. We tested her shampoo, we tested her facial cream, her her cosmetics, all of those kinds of things, and made those changes. And in 1 week, her needs dropped by almost 60%.
Wow!
So we had a dramatic reduction in the amount of support that she needed because we weren't wearing her down at the other end. We were finding a nice balance there, and I think a lot of people find that, especially with needs for liver herbs, the burdocks and
this may be one
cleaners.
of the big reasons why I find that liver problems are one of the most common things that people have.
I think it is.
Because the liver has to detoxify all this stuff out of the bloodstream. It's not just like drinking alcohol all the time. You're taking all kinds of chemicals in, pesticide residues and all these other chemicals that are even be absorbed through the skin.
And that's true. Most of us, by the time we leave our house in the morning, have 10 to 12 layers of petroleum. Because we get into a shower first that has been cleaned with a petroleum solvent, probably with chlorine added. This same man that cleaned my house commented on the fact that whenever he used bleach, people would walk into their house and say, "It smells so clean in here," and how we've been conditioned to believe that that bleachy smell is healthy and clean.
Because it's chlorine. And,
That's
and
right.
I remember Warren Klaus said that about the water, that
Right.
chlorine causes the cholesterol to become sticky and so forth. But I remember him saying that most of the chlorine we take into our bodies does not come from drinking water.
That's right.
It comes from bathing in it, washing our clothes in it, etc. So we're getting a lot of chlorine into our bodies, even if we're filtering it out of our water, unless we're eliminating some of these chemicals, aren't we?
We are. And I find, too, that we can take it one step further from the positive end. Some people just say, "Oh my gosh, what do? I just stop eating and I stop doing everything." And I don't think that's the answer. You do find the supplements, you do build the body, you control what you can, and you can't change the air that you breathe. But
Right.
you can control how much other substance is in that air by getting rid of some of these other poisons. But you can also make these products actually be therapeutic for you with your bathing and so forth. I use an aromatic bath gel that's got a lot of spruce and pine and St. John's wort oils in it. And when I find that I'm just overworked and I'm overtired and I'm stressed and I'm stiff and I'm achy, I've been remodeling my kitchen and laying tile and doing things I just wasn't built to do. And when I would get in the shower and really work my lymph nodes, especially rubbing myself and cleaning myself with those aromatic oils, I was revived. And I didn't go to bed and wake up stiff and achy the next morning because I've been able to keep that circulation really enhanced by using the aromatic oils in my products. The same thing, with lemon or tea tree oil as an antiseptic makes a wonderful addition to a hand soap. I have a liquid hand soap that has burdock root and pineapple enzymes added. So
and
it's really
you can add a
softening
little tea
and it
tree
feels
oil
wonderful.
and you get a very good antiseptic
right.
one, yes. Terrific. Well, I'm sure that a lot of our listeners today, or viewers, are going to get a lot of value out of this, because this is something that, like I said, we don't often think about as being that important to our health. And especially, it looks like it's very important for people with allergies and any kind of immune deficiency to
especially in children.
To look at the products that they're using and take another step. So thanks for coming.
Thank you.